Welcome to Flow Made Simple. In today's video, I'm sharing 15 creative ways that I use heavy Steel Mace 360s in my strength workouts. These exercises become progressively more difficult across the set, and the last 4 of the 15 are particularly challenging. I'll be providing cues, so remember which ones are your favorite and use them in your next workout. Let's get swinging. The first Steel Mace 360 swing that I like to do is what I call a mountain style 360. And what this means is that I am remaining rooted to the ground and not counterbalancing the mace as it swings. Instead, I am using the muscles of my core and my shoulder girdle to perform these 360s. And I'm not going to be lifting my heels off the ground, and I'm not moving opposite to the mace, as you'll see in a different movement pattern later on. So that's the first one, mountain style 360. Second one is relatively simple, and I'll turn to the side. It adds legs. It is simply going to be a 360, stepping forward, and then switching to the other side. Adding this front lunge, and honestly, you can also even add a reverse lunge if you'd like as well. It really is up to you. I'm just adding a 360 and lunging either forwards or backwards. And this is my second movement. The big thing here is that at the bottom of every single lunge, I want to make sure that I have really nice engaged posture, my core's engaged, my glutes are engaged, and I'm ready to push up into my next 360. Third up is going to be the same thing, but in lateral lunge. The way I like to do this is 360, stepping out, catching the mace, and then pushing off that bent leg, pushing across the body and into the next side. And this way, I can continue the momentum of the mace as I'm going through my 360s. And as I step out from one side to the other. So that is a very powerful one. I actually love that one. It's one of my absolute all-time favorites. Next up is another lower body opportunity. And kind of like the front lunge, we are going to be catching the mace in a horizontal position at every single rep. The difference is that this lower body is going to be a squat. And I'm simply going to have a 360 in between every single squat. And I want to keep my feet on the ground in the mountain stance, mountain style 360 I mentioned earlier, so that I am really nice and stable right as I drop into my squat. So this is another spectacular one that I use in my strength workouts. Now, my favorite thing to do is flow. I like to be able to combine movements together. And so this next one is going to break away from just the 360 into a leg pattern, and instead we're going to do a 360 into an upper body pattern. And here's what it looks like. I'm gonna go from 360, catch the top of the mace, palm facing out, pivot and uppercut. And then I'll bring it back through, and 360 the other direction. And I simply want to make sure that I'm continuing the momentum of the mace from beginning through end. So once I finish one uppercut, the momentum continues until I finish an uppercut on the other side. And if you want to add legs to this, it's actually very easy. You just come into essentially a horse stance and you do the same thing, pivoting into front lunge and then coming back through and into uppercut on the other side. This next pattern is one of my all-time favorites. It's probably what I do the most of, and that is simply going to be a two-handed 10 to 2, which means that I'm doing essentially the same thing as a regular 360, except that I'm pausing the mace before it comes all the way back to my center line. And this is a really great way to learn how to manage the momentum of the mace, to alternate between encouraging momentum and arresting it. And it also, because you can see how low my hands are extending at the end of each rep, gives me a lot of practice with getting comfortable with the mace in space, and my proprioception benefits as well. And as you can probably imagine, my lats are getting a great workout as well. So that is the double arm 10 to 2, one of my all-time favorites. Now, I talked about the mountain style 360, and now we're gonna do the other style, which I probably use even more than mountain style, and that's what I would call bamboo style. And the reason is that I am counterbalancing the mace on every single swing. I'm lifting heels off the ground. I'm turning my upper body more. I'm actually moving side to counterbalance the mace as it swings. And it is simply going to allow my lower body to help me control the mace as it goes through every single repetition of the 360. So it's a very powerful way. It's also a more advanced topic, and I cover it in detail in my 8-week Mace Flow training program, and I actually break it down step by step so that you can get there if all you know right now is that mountain style. Now the next two moves dive right back into that footwork with the lunge and the squat, but there's a big difference. Instead of having the mace come horizontal across the body, where it's easier to control, this time both hands are going to be remaining at the tail of the mace. So I'll show you what that looks like, starting with the lunge. I'll begin with the 360, stepping out, pulling the mace back to that center line, and I want to prioritize lower body stability so that my core can be stable and therefore my shoulders can be stable. Then I'll tip it the other direction, push off, and step out. And timing is challenging. As I tip the mace, that's when I push off and step out. And this is tricky, it's fun, and it really works the stabilizer muscles all through the body and through the grip in the arms as well. So that's a pretty cool one. Now I'll come back to center and we'll go right into the squat pattern, which, as you probably can imagine, simply has me doing the squat at the end of each repetition of 360. This requires less stabilization, but it also requires good hip and shoulder mobility to perform. Now, something that may help is that as you do this 360 and you drop down in your squat, you can push the hands forward if you need, and that's up to you. So those are two more variations using the lower body with the 360. And now a moment ago, we talked about the 10 to 2. And now to make things more difficult, we're gonna go from 2 hands down to 1. And so this next movement is a single arm 10 to 2 swing. And you'll see that I always like to do bamboo style with this, meaning that I'm turning my upper body away from the mace as it swings, heels come off the ground, and I'm counterbalancing the mace as it goes through. I'm looking to really load my lats and let my lower body help me control this mace and manage the timing of it. And now we're getting into arguably the hardest movement of the entire group. This one is a single arm 10 to 2 with an extension, and I'm actually gonna face away so you can get a better idea of it. So from my one arm 10 to 2, I'm going to extend the mace up, drop back through in 10 to 2, and continue on the other side. And so in a sense, I have 2 repetitions of 10 to 2 for every extension that I do. This is a hard movement and a really fun one. You have to be very stable through the lower body, and you have to be very strong through the triceps as you control this, because the centrifugal force of the mace as it swings pushes away. So this one is a ton of fun. Absolutely love doing it. And once you get your one arm 10 to 2s down really strong, give that one a whirl. But save it for that, because it is a challenging movement, and it becomes very noticeable if the trajectory of the mace is off. As the mace drops down, it can really throw off your 10 to 2 pattern as you recover it. So don't treat this one lightly. It's one of the hardest ones to do, especially with a heavy mace, but it's a ton of fun to perform it. Now, keeping with the theme of the 10 to 2, specifically the one arm, and specifically having that comfortability with pulling back and forth, I'm gonna share 2 more lower body movements. And yes, it's gonna be a lunge and a squat, but again, it's gonna be a different upper body variation. Specifically, what it's going to look like is one arm, 10 to 2, catch, rack, and step out to the side. Push up, 10 to 2, pull through, and step out. And continue. Tricky movement, tricky at the timing. You also obviously want to catch the mace right on your trap so that you have a nice safe landing for it. And what this requires is that when you go through your 10 to 2, you keep your hand close to the body. So I'll do that again so you can see. I'm just gonna alternate going from back rack a few times. So 10 to 2, 10 to 2, keeping the hand close, and you can see that it's really easy to land it on the trap. 10 to 2, and you can even extend the arm all the way out if you wanted to, or you can make it much harder on the leverage and keep the head further away. And that is how you do the back rack. A bit tricky, but it also starts to really make sense once you get it down. Again, these are the more advanced ones. I'm sharing it because this is what I like to do and this is how I have fun with the mace, but make sure that you're ready before you give these a shot. And next up, we are going to do that same thing except with the squat pattern. So one arm 10 to 2, catch, squat, 10 to 2, 10 to 2, catch, and squat. 10 to 2, 10 to 2, catch, and squat. And there you are. Now there's just one more movement, and this one I also like to do because it's more of a flow movement. Now, the key is that it's similar to that uppercut, except that I'm going to be catching an overhead shield and in dragon step. And then I'll push the mace back the other way and continue. And you can get nice and low in a dragon step. Feeling nice and stable through the shoulders. And just like that uppercut, I want to make sure that I'm arresting the momentum, pushing it the same direction into the 360, and then catching on the other side. And that is how to do that last one. Overhead shields with the 360 in the middle. Whew. I'm impressed with my stamina that I got through all this. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. Comment down below which ones are your favorite. I'm very curious to hear which of this spread seems the most interesting to you and which ones maybe you want to try out in your next workout. So let me know. Also, if you're new to the mace and you want to get the most out of this tool in your workouts in a very short period of time, I have a free 57-page ebook that covers everything you need to know in 14 days. Totally free, and the link is in the description down below. And with that, my friends of Flow, may the mace be with you.